Hey, welcome back to the Space Rig. Today I'll be taking a look at the driller builds I like to use and the variety of uses they have. The driller has the potential to sway the tide of any fight. Not only because he has the ability to shape the cave to his liking, but also because his weapons can cleave right through swarms and break behemoths alike. These 6 builds I'm going to show you will give you a good example of why the driller is a Chad in more ways than one. Fuel up, let's go. Loadout A's first build is a favorite for many drillers. The classic Sticky Flames build is popular for a reason. My version of this build uses a 1-2-2-1-2 mod setup on the CRSPR combined with the Sticky Fuel overclock to maximize the Sticky Flames uptime. So you might be wondering why I haven't gone all in with the Sticky Flames uptime on tier 4, right? I actually did use this increase for a while, but I switched the perk to Fear after realizing that the extra 3 seconds probably were a bit overkill for me. The current 8 seconds I'm using are plenty of times for bugs to pass through them in the heat of battle. Having tier 4 freed up lets you either opt for more ammo if you run out too quickly, or use the Fear mod for turning bugs around to either walk back into your flames or exposing their weak point to you. Though if you do like the 11-second burn time, go ahead and use it, it's not going to hurt anything. My Subata 120 here is built to take advantage of the fast ignition time and constant fire damage the flamethrower is dishing out. The mods are 1-1-2-1-1 with the automatic fire overclock. These mods seek to give you a balance of damage, control, and ammo reserves to work with so you can whip out your Subata and delete bugs who are already on fire. This works especially well with burning Praetorians whose weak points are exposed, giving you much needed burst damage when your primary is mostly doing slow damage over time. It's totally optional, but I also have the tier 1 perk set to improved alignment to give me one assured accurate shot for when I need to hit distant targets without wasting auto fire on them. This build lets the driller set up insanely effective defenses during swarms, especially in choke points where the sticky flames have a chance to really shine. You have to make a conscious effort not to waste your ammo due to the reduced amounts from the overclock, so be mindful and try to stretch that fire damage over time as far as you can to avoid emptying tank after tank. Your Subata can pick up the slack in a pinch, and the Fear can help keep bugs off you and in your sticky flames longer. This is a great general purpose build that really only has issues with mactera swarms and boss enemies, so choose it accordingly. Build 2 is a fun combo focused on alternating elemental damage types to abuse the temperature shock mechanic. The Cryocannon mods I have equipped are 3, 1, 2, 2, and 1 with the perfectly tuned cooler overclock. This setup seeks to reduce the time to freeze to nearly 0 on regular glyphids, and gives you the ability to reliably freeze larger targets with relative ease. You do have the option to swap out one of the freezing mods if you wish, trading a -1 on freezing power in favor of giving yourself a larger ammo reserve or pressure chamber, but that's totally up to you. The goal here is to freeze as fast as possible to set up for the bonus damage. Speaking of bonus damage, I'm using the experimental plasma charger here with the mods 2-2-3-2-3 and the heavy hitter overclock. This config makes your normal shots the main source of damage for the charger, but also causes quick overheats, so the gun fires more in bursts than continuous barrages. That's okay because the real edge here is the tier 5 mod Plasma Burn that ignites targets after just a few shots. This combines really well with your Cryocannon since you now have both elemental damage types in your pocket. Why is this important, you ask? Because you can do this. You can alternate between damage types to trigger the bonus damage of temperature shock over and over again if you get into a rhythm with this build. You can also take advantage of it if one of your teammates has an elementally focused build, so make sure you pay attention. A good way to do this effectively on a single target is to lead with your EPC rather than the Cryocannon. It's easier to ignite first and then freeze after since your Cryocannon's faster. This makes it so you can cause bonus damage after igniting the enemy with the extra oomph of it being frozen and easy to finish off after. Overall, this build is another generally useful one with a variety of scenarios, but I will say it's easier when you have a full team due to the freezing mechanics being hard to take advantage of solo. It's really nice for Praetorians though. In Loadout B's first build, I have an especially fun one I like to use when going up against mactera plagues. You know how the scout always wants to carry cryo grenades for when going up against macteras that are bunched up together so you can delete them out of the sky? What if you could do that, but like, as much as you want? Yeah, that's what this Cryocannon does. My mods are 3-3-1-3-1, and the overclock, which is the heart of this setup, is Snowball. This lets you fire a huge snowball, big surprise, at bugs with your reload button that flash freezes them in exchange for longer repressure and less ammo. Normally this isn't great because of the time it takes to fire the snowball at swarms is about how long it would take you to freeze them normally, but when used against mactera it really shines. With 9 freezing power, this Cryocannon is nothing to scoff at either. It's fully capable of doing its normal duties during the ground-based swarms, with the added benefit of having some burst freezing for flying swarms. To accompany the snowball launcher, I used the Subata kitted out from mactera kills with 2-2-2-1-2 mods and a clean chain hit overclock. This maximizes weak point damage and has the added benefit to bouncing to new targets on weak point hits, which is useful when mactera do that thing where it's a simple way of using the pistol, but very effective to support your weird primary. You can use the explosive reload overclock on mactera to some effect, since it essentially guarantees damage on bugs after initial hits, but the reduce in direct damage kinda feels bad even if it's not that much. Again, totally up to you. This build does struggle with ammo use, so be ready for that. If you overuse the snowballs, you'll end up empty pretty quickly, so use them for perfect scenarios rather than with every swarm. I like to take the Berserker perk and throwing axes with this one to kill off frozen bugs without using much ammo when I can. It goes without saying, use this build during mactera swarms. It's specialized for that and won't get nearly as much use outside of that hazard due to the inefficiency. This next build is made to use the EPC as a mining tool, therefore requiring your primary to be more flexible than normal. Now, since I have an insatiable need to use unstable and balanced overclocks, I have a flamethrower that ignores the fact that using a clean overclock is probably the safest and most boring option in favor of doing a dual all-in strategy. The mods I use on this one are 1 or 2, 1, 3, 3, 2, specking for maximum ammo and little added direct damage. The reason I have 1 and 2 selected for tier 1 is due to me using 2 different overclocks here, namely fuel stream diffuser and compact feed valves. The first increases operational range while the other increases tank capacity, coinciding with the tier 1 mods that do the same thing, only less. I'll either equip this crisper to have maximum range or maximum tanks depending on the type of mission or biome I'm going into. You could want long range for big maps and mactera, or short range with faster firing speed for close quarters. It's always going to be a little bit of a gamble really, so don't worry too much about it. You could spec the opposite with the mods to offset the overclock downsides, but that just ends up being a middling, boring flamethrower that would be better off as a clean overclock build instead. There's no gimmick to using either of these really, you're just burning things with direct damage. While the flamethrower is pulling double duty with the bugs, your EPC is going to be a full-on mining tool. With the 2-2-1-2-2 config, and the heat pipe overclock to make mining with the thin containment field as fuel efficient as possible. It still works as a weapon just fine, but it doesn't have a huge amount of bite anymore, just lots of ammo and good range. EPC mining is kind of a beast in and of its own. I'm still not great at it, but it's extremely useful, especially when you're missing a scout or engineer. Other people have made much more in-depth videos on the subject, but here's the gist of it. You charge a shot and fire it right as the crosshair turns red. Then, you fire a normal shot at the flying energy ball when it nears the terrain you want to mine. With some good timing, you can pull minerals out of the wall with ease and save time. The charge shot can be used in fights, although it's a bit hard to pull off in the heat of a swarm. Do be warned, any damage done to the containment field shots will detonate them. That includes allies and Hoxxes wildlife that can shoot at you. Just be careful not to implode your beautiful face. Loadout C's build number 1 is a direct foil to the first flamethrower build I used in Loadout A. This crisper goes for the highest DPS possible with 1, 1, 1 or 3, 3, and 2, and the face melter overclock. As the name suggests, it melts faces, and pretty much anything else you want melted too. I have 1 and 3 both in the tier 3 slot depending on how ammo intensive you want this thing to be. On one hand you have even more massive burst potential, and on the other you get 1 more full tank per reserve. The choice really depends on preference. This flamethrower kills bugs fast, but suffers in the ammo department either way you spec it, bringing it in line with the alternative choice to freezing everything quickly rather than being a straight upgrade. Where it really shines is in prolonged fights with big enemies, especially things that have a lot of armor like dreadnoughts, shellbacks, and oppressors. You can get right through the armor and deal direct damage to them. This baby gonna be hot. The Subata sidearm here is built to give you more breathing room when you need it. The mods are 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, combined with the tranquilizer rounds overclock to give you a slow firing, high damage pistol that can stop nearly any bug in its tracks. It doesn't have the burst potential of other Subata builds, but it doesn't matter when you have what is essentially a directionally funneled Quasar star and your other weapon slot to handle the damage dealing. This gun can be swapped in and out as needed to halt a bug's advance and open them up to a barrage of flames to the face later. I like to use this build on missions that require bugs to die now, missions where stuff like drawn out damage over time just won't cut it. This applies during lethal bugs, regenerative bugs, and even volatile guts hazards, where letting glyphids stay alive and get close is a really bad idea. Also, hint hint, the Born Ready perk works really well with this build since you can stun enemies with your sidearm while it reloads your flamethrower, letting you keep DPS and crowd control on your targets almost indefinitely. For my last build, I decided to use one of the weirdest overclocks the Cryocannon has to make the thing into an ice-powered railgun of all things. The mod setup of 3-1-1-3-1 increases your ammo reserves to the max in order to give you plenty of fuel to use the ice spear overclock with. Why? Dreadnoughts. That's why. Rather than attempting to freeze the dread for 0.0000003 seconds with a continuous stream of nitrogen, this cryocannon acts more like its namesake and launches a huge high damage projectile at its target with the reload button. Don't get me wrong, this is a terrible idea to take when expecting regular swarms, save for some uses against some high HP enemies with easy to hit weak points like goo bombers or something. You'll have to do your best to freeze the swarms for your team and do what you can against the big bugs without wasting too much fuel. Save that for the Dreadnought fight. To help with this, you'll be using the EPC again, this time spec'd out to deal huge AoE damage with its charged shots. Now, in truth, you could use any sidearm you're most comfortable with here, but I like this one because it fits with the theme of huge single target damage or huge AoE damage for the build. The mods on this thing are 3-1-2-2-3 with the overcharger overclock that gives you a huge, fast charging AoE projectile that can vaporize clustered groups of glyphids easily. I have the Plasma Burn mod on tier 5 for the same reason as the first EPC build, to take advantage of temperature shock when you can for that added boost, and to use burn damage to potentially save ammo. This build is a personal favorite of mine just because of how goofy it feels to use and how incredibly satisfying it is to take massive chunks of HP out of the Dreadnought as a driller. If you can consistently hit it in the weak spot with the delayed ice spear shots, you'll see what I mean. I also use the EPC charge shots to quickly get rid of swarmers that the Dreadnought spawns. Just be careful, I'm not liable if you mess this up by being a bad shot and wasting all your ammo. Management's already written me up multiple times for bringing this build along with me, and I really don't want my beer licenses revoked again, so don't tell them I told you about this one. So there we go, 6 driller builds that show that just because the driller is already an indisputable Chad in every conceivable way, doesn't mean he can't be specialized to be used in all sorts of different ways. The good thing is you'll always have your satchel charge on you, regardless of what build you pick, letting you perform your most essential of duties as a driller, besides digging through paper-thin walls of compacted dirt and tunneling to the drop pod. I hope these builds are fun for you to try out when you aren't giving in to the whispers of chaos and showing your wimpy team that the bugs aren't the only thing they need to be scared of. I'm required by company policy to tell you to like and subscribe, so please do. Also, I stream at twitch.tv/Seerven. Come hang out if you want to see me use these builds and more, or just to heckle me about my bad tactical decisions. Until next time, rock and stone.